And we're live. Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of the Wheelie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Atoll, and I'm joined by Electrek Seth Weintraub. How's it going, Seth?
I'm good.
Awesome. And we are back with a new pile of electric bike and associated electric funmobile stories. We've got everything from Tern's new next gen Vektron is out to Rivian's also bike dropping the price on their entry level model. We're going to talk about a cool new flatbed e-trike. We've got some slightly more depressing news from Rad Power Bikes to go over, but we're going to pick it back up with a pretty awesome suitcase sized folding electric motorcycle and a few other interesting stories on top of that. So, where are we going to start it off with this week, Seth? And I already see it's the depressing one.
Yes, we're going to start with the bad news. Rad Power Bikes says it may close down by January.
Why did I put that one first? Okay, so
Get it out
let's
of the
skip
way.
this. Yeah, this is terribly unfortunate. Rad Power Bikes is obviously one of the best known names in electric bikes in North America. In fact, for a while they were operating in Europe as well, so they were a pretty global company. But they've had a pretty rough run of things since the boom of the pandemic has turned into more of a simmer. And we heard last week that unfortunately it looks like Rad is headed in the direction of closure. Now, this is not an announcement of closure yet, but they have put out a warn notice in the state of Washington where they are headquartered, which revealed that they do expect to lay off their 64 remaining positions in their headquarters there and terminate operations if they do not find a buyer for the brand or some new investor that will step in before, I believe it's the first or second week of January. So we're within 2 months of what could be the end of Rad Power Bikes here. Now, like I said, this is not a notice of closure. This is in the state of Washington. They're legally required to provide notice if they intend to lay off or terminate positions. And so this is sort of a forced reveal of what their plans may be if they don't find a buyer. Obviously, the Rad Power Bikes brand has a lot of value, so it is possible that someone could step in and pick it up. It's hard to see how someone could sort of revitalize the brand with all of the debt that they have on the books right now. They've been just hugely overstrapped. They've invested heavily in all sorts of the OEM equipment, their products, their parts. There's stories that they've got, parts for years and years because they ordered so heavily during the supply chain issues of the pandemic. Obviously, they've got a huge ridership base, so there is a pretty significant customer service weight on top of them with all of the hundreds of thousands of bikes they have out there. So it's a little bit hard for me to imagine how someone could step in and sort of pick up where the company is now, but perhaps someone could roll in and buy up the brand, the assets, this and that, and there could be some semblance of a resurgence of Rad Power Bikes, but I just don't see a smooth landing from here on out, unfortunately, unless there's some miracle. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
someone
I
could
mean
step in.
the brand is certainly people know it. I think I have some friends that I recommended Rad Power Bikes back in the day. They love their Rad bikes. So people are probably that aren't industry watchers like ourselves aren't they're like, all right, time to get a new bike. Let's get another Rad. The Rad that we got worked well for us. But obviously we've been kind of, I don't want to say, criticizing Rad, but like we kind of question their strategy. They moved the founder out of the CEO role, Mike Rad and something
Radenbaugh.
Radenbach. That's never a good sign. That's when the founder leaves and venture capital moves in, usually the soul of the company is kind of sucked dry. I think that's the case here. I think they were kind of looking at a strategy. They were like, okay, there's all these Chinese dropship bikes that are coming in that are kind of killing our low end, so we're going to go up market a little bit. But to go up market, you really kind of have to go up market, like premium components. And I think the VC guys really don't know like what upmarket means. I think they were just like, make it look pretty and double the price. And I think a lot of customers were just, or potential customers were like, no, I'll take the cheaper bike, same components, or I'll take the same price bike with better components. So they didn't really find a market. And then I think at the end they were kind of looking to become like a brick and mortar. Like that was, they were kind of going, I don't want to say the Pedigo model, but a little bit more toward that, which Pedigo's not doing amazingly well at the moment either. So I think this is just an example of a company that kind of just lost its way. Like there was competition on the low end. They pivoted. The pivot, I don't think worked. I don't think it rang. Like I
Yeah,
think the Rad,
didn't stick the landing.
yeah, the Rad customers were like, no, that's not what we wanted. Like we love the Rad Runner. Like make it better or cheaper, but not more expensive and similar. Like that's not what it's not what we're here for. So, you and I for sure saw kind of this coming, or maybe not this in particular, but it didn't seem like they were going the right direction. And, we've had a relationship with Mike for a long time. He went quiet. Um, I know you have some contacts there still. They're, kind of in damage control mode after this came out. We even kind of called everybody we knew, including we found out that there's, at the headquarters of Rad in Seattle, there's a brewery on each side, which like as a business owner, I don't know that that's a great strategy. But we called them to see what was going on over there. A lot of times people spill their guts at the bar. And one of the people told us that there was way fewer cars in the lot and, way less traffic there recently. So it doesn't look good for Rad.
Yeah, and this is just terribly unfortunate because they were such a driving force. They
Yep.
were always, I think their line was democratizing e-bikes. Like they were there to bring what had been very expensive e-bikes to the common man. And they did a great job of that. I mean, they've got, I think the last number I saw was 600,000, 800,000, something like that, e-bikes out there. So they did a wonderful job of that. But like you were saying, they were always a value based brand. And when the value proposition wasn't quite there anymore, the price went up that much, the buyers didn't stick around. I mean, now they had a lot of pressures. It wasn't just the tariffs. There were a lot of lower cost companies that came in. Electrek ate probably most of their lunch. So they had pressures from every direction. But if they weren't going to stick the landing on that pivot, then there wasn't going to be something else to save them. Unfortunately, it looks like that's what we've run into here. And so I don't see another way out for them, because if the existing VCs decided like that's it, there's no more money, then I don't know who else is going to step in and say, I'll take a risk on this.
Yeah, we know Electrek bought Juiced, and we haven't seen kind of the fruits of that yet, but it kind of seems like they were just going after the brand, which is, kind of high performance electric bikes. And I don't know what the strategy is there. I don't think it was a big investment. We don't know the numbers, but I think it was kind of like, this is so cheap, why not? Kind of idea. I don't know that the VC backers of Rad are going to be so easy to, lift the name from. They're probably looking for a similar type of deal where they can kind of offload, or they can get, it's basically going to be a bankruptcy situation where a bank is looking to offload at the lowest, at the best prices they can find, the name and the inventory and the storefronts. So I don't know, would Pedigo maybe think about buying them? I'm trying to think of like who would be a potential.
Yeah, well, like you said, Pedigo's not in the best situation either. We actually just covered a day or two ago. They had a somewhat unclear uh, financial interaction partnership, however you want to call it, with Ertopia, which is um, effectively a Chinese e-bike company, though they go to great pains to sort of like obscure that.
Hmm.
And so Pedigo's saying this isn't a takeover. You know, we didn't get bought by Utopia, but it seems they're very much now owned by the people who own Utopia. So
Right.
I doubt that Pedigo's in a position to be purchasing Rad.
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
nobody
it's
really in the space that has deep pockets. I mean, I guess Electrek. What about also? Also's jumping in the market. Those 11 storefronts might be something they'd be interested in. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, their burn
They're
rate
not
must be so high that
right.
yeah, that's a significant investment to take on. I mean, what you bring up with Electric, they're the only ones I could see that would have the capital to risk on something like this, because I'm sure the Rad's owners don't want to sell it cheap. They want to get
Right.
a significant amount of money back, but it's not going to be interesting to Electric, I don't think, the way
What about
Juiced was.
like a Chinese OEM like Hey Bike or something like that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of money floating around in China still for e-bike investments and e-bike companies. So that's a possibility, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That might be, I mean, that might be a reasonable way out. I guess the next 6 weeks or so will tell.
Yeah, and we could also see just like a consortium of folks who think e-bikes and Rad's vision is still viable, and maybe it's just a bunch of people with cash.
Yeah, I will say their social media team, whoever's running it, deserves a raise for the last few months because they are just like powering through this. I mean, feels
Yeah.
like, the band playing as the Titanic went down, like
Right.
every day just content, content. So good for them.
Wow. All right. Well, let's move on to some better news. Tern launches next gen Vektron folding e-bike in the US now with belt drive.
Yeah, you're a Vektron fan, right, Seth?
Yeah, I love that thing.
Yeah, so the Vektron is the sort of more affordable, simpler folding e-bike from Tern. Certainly not a simple bike, but this is not the big heavy duty GSD, HSD, that sort of thing. It was relaunched, I want to say like a month or two ago in the Asian and European markets with the new Bosch motor, new belt drive, but now the US is also getting this new version. I don't imagine the US is the biggest market for Tern compared to Europe, but it is nice to see this one brought in. Tern is certainly one of the better, higher quality, but still like available to the common man e-bike brands. It's not the like insanely expensive, it's just the like fairly expensive, high quality brands. But the Vektron is like we said, this is designed to be more affordable to people. So this one, I believe it's somewhere around $3,500, which you're it's a significant chunk of change for a bike. But if this is your everyday vehicle and you're replacing a car, then that's certainly a lot more affordable than a car. And the Vectron brings that level of quality that we know from Tern. When they say that this thing supports a certain amount of weight, they've tested it to like twice that kind of thing. Not just they've, found where it breaks and backed off 10 pounds. Um, it's got the new Gates carbon drive, or it is available with, a chain drive if you don't want to upgrade to the um, uh,
P5N.
internally geared rear hub or the Enviolo, and you want the chain drive and the derailleur. But I think that the belt drive here is the big story because that's what makes this thing so low maintenance, so nice to use. Now, it is more expensive between the Bosch motor, the nice brakes, the Gates carbon drive, the CVT hub. I mean, all this stuff adds up. So plus, obviously, Tern's engineering team, they're higher higher. What's the word I'm looking for? Quality assurance that you just don't get with like the cheaper brands. They're going over these things with a fine tooth comb. So that's certainly going to add to the price. But I would say that for someone that is asking me, I want to spend more, what is like a high quality bike that I know is well built and I don't have to worry about like, falling apart 6 months from now, like a, cheaper e-bike, then Tern is one of the ones that I go to as like
Yep.
quality for price kind of thing. Now, did you tested one of the earlier versions of the Vectron, right?
Yeah, and that one was a lot I think that had 20-inch wheels. This looks like a little bit smaller than that. This looks like it's almost like kind of going into the Brompton world, where it's not just foldable, but also like very portable. Like I'm looking at some of the packing, the pictures here, and it seems like this thing folds up really tiny. And also Tern is kind of famous for having the standing on the back thing. So it becomes very portable. It looks like they're shoving two of these things in the back of an SUV thing here.
Yeah, I think those are
Pretty.
still 20s though. I think
Are
we're
they?
just so used to seeing fat tires that like a normal
Yeah.
tire on a 20 looks tiny.
Yeah, this must be a larger fellow then, because it does seem small. But I'm just
Yeah.
saying overall, I think Tern is like lightening their bikes. They're getting it. The Vektron is like kind of inching towards the Brompton ultra portable, ultra light commuter bikes. I mean,
Yeah,
these are the
and
bikes you actually do fold. Like some of the I don't know, Electrek XP4, great bike, but like, are you folding it that much? Probably not. Like you're not lifting that into the back of your SUV very often. This is like the kind that you actually do take it on the train, or you actually do bring it up some stairs, or you actually do all that stuff.
yeah, that's an excellent point because a lot of these folding bikes, a big reason that they fold is so they can ship in a smaller box. But
Yep.
yeah, the lighter ones are the ones that you're actually bringing on the train, or you really need to fold up. And that's been part of Turn's like bread and butter since the beginning is that like they're designed to actually live in people's lives, especially apartment dwellers or people with limited space. The standing on the tail parking, like you were talking about, like that's Turn's DNA. So this definitely is moving even further in that direction.
Yeah. It's great to see that Turns keeps on innovating in this space too, because sometimes like I hate to bring up Rad in this respect, but like it kind of felt like once the founder was out, the innovation was just like, hey, we're going to jack prices up. So it's nice to see them doing stuff, and belt drive is certainly a welcome addition to this product.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's move on here. My browser's like awfully slow today. I installed Photoshop on my computer, and it like the scratch disk is like basically all the leftover space I have. And boom, I now have a very old computer, feels like. All right, moving on.
Oh,
This is the first ever semi-solid state battery going into a production e-bike.
this is exciting because we've talked about solid state batteries for years and years. How they're always just a few years away. But now we are finally getting what I believe to be the first semi-solid state battery going into a production e-bike. If there's been another, someone correct me, but I couldn't find one. There was talk of Stromer using them a few years ago, but I don't think it ever materialized. And this is from a company called T&D. It was actually, I don't know if spun out of Bafang is like technically correct. It was sort of founded by the same founder as Bafang, Sunny Hugh, to be more of their like motorcycle parts brand, but they have gotten into batteries as well. So it's sort of a spin out here, and they've developed these semi-solid state batteries. Now, semi-solid state is sort of the first clue that these are not like the holy grail of solid state batteries. What the semi means is that they have significantly less of the liquid electrolyte in them, so there is still a little bit. They're not 100% solid state, but it does mean that they are much safer, which is probably the single largest benefit of solid state batteries is that you can drive a nail through them and they won't explode. If you take like your typical e-bike battery, or certainly like RC lipo batteries, and you put a nail through them, you better start running and quickly because that's going to explode on you. They pass the nail puncture test just fine, even being semi-solid state. So very cool to see this. It brings other advantages as well. We're talking about somewhat improved energy density, which is going to be big for electric bikes because there's just not a lot of space on e-bike frames, and so this will help get more energy into a smaller frame tube. Just not be as chunky. But to me, the real big benefit is the safety advancement. Now, unfortunately, I cannot tell you which bike this is going on because I don't know yet. The company itself has not announced that they're using these batteries, and so TND can't reveal which bike it is yet. I believe it's going to be a Chinese brand e-bike, which ironically is because China now has like the strictest e-bike battery regulations, and so brands are moving towards safer and safer batteries. Hopefully, the U.S. can reach the level of other developed nations with battery safety. Um, but hopefully soon we'll know where these batteries are headed. But it was very cool to see this. I snagged these pictures at TND's booth at EICMA, the Milan Motorcycle Show, where they had a lot of their motorcycle components, but they're showing off these batteries as well. I see you've landed on the ATV project there, Seth, which they were showing off. This is from one of their customers who put the TND drivetrain into. They call it the track torque. It does have a tow ball. It's designed to be like a one-person go-kart tractor or something like that.
That's a weird combination. I did want to talk about like why is that huge bar on the top of that thing? I guess that's for when you tip over inevitably.
Yeah, that's your roll hoop. So
That's
you
your
keep
neck
your head
saver.
where it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All
Keep
right.
your head in parallel to your spine. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so their parts are going all over the place, and they've got a pretty wide range from the motors and controllers, all the drivetrain to powertrain parts like these batteries. But this is really cool because this could significantly change the current state of the art for e-bike batteries and what that means for safety, fireproofing and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I when we talk about lithium phosphate or um, lipo batteries, I wonder like did that derail some of the solid state stuff because those are a lot safer than the lithium ion batteries that we have problems with. I wonder if like some of the money that went to solid state batteries was like, oh well, we can just have it really cheaply and today rather than having to develop all these new processes for solid state. It's good to see that solid state's still happening in this case, and we've been hearing and waiting for solid state stuff for so long. It's like finally we're seeing something come out of that.
Yeah, it's the full self-driving of the e-bike world.
You're right. All right, let's move on. It only takes my browser 35 seconds to get where we're going.
Told you not to go with the
And
dial-up.
I know. Rivian also announced his lower $3,500 price for its fancy new e-bike. They did tell us that there was going to be a mid 3,000s price, so we kind of knew, but we didn't know exactly what it was going to be. So here we land.
Yeah, this was sort of the number we were waiting for because, of course, when they launched last month, they wanted to show off their TMB launch edition. That's what comes with all the fancy bells and whistles, and that was the most impressive version. But it was $4,500, which we all kind of like hemmed and hawed and said, "Wow, that's really expensive." Not that it didn't come with some really impressive features and innovation that we haven't seen in the e-bike world, but just that prices out a lot of the people who could use a bike like that. So now the company has finally revealed the exact pricing for their entry level model. So this is not their performance or their launch edition. It's built on the same foundation. So it looks like your TMB performance, though without some of the color options and that sort of thing. It does have some reduced performance. It's got the smaller battery. I believe it's 600 watt hours, maybe 550, something like that. It's not the 800 or so watt hours of the larger battery. It's got reduced power. It's sort of unclear how much. They describe this one as being 5 times multiplier of your pedaling input, as opposed to the performance that was at the launch day that was 10 times. It's kind of a weird way to measure e-bike power. It's just not like an industry standard way to do it. So it's a little hard for us to say exactly how much power is in this thing, though presumably it would be half of the launch edition or the performance edition. It's got a few other small differences. The suspension is spring instead of the air fork in the front. So more limited colorway options. I think you don't get like the cool either the translucent or the color plastic covers. I'm not sure which one exactly. So, some small aesthetic differences, but mainly you're getting the reduced output performance, the shorter range, and the somewhat more entry level suspension components. But it saves $1,000. So for someone who wanted all the other benefits, the changeable upper frame, that really cool display, the pedal by wire, all the other things that we talked about that come with this very innovative bike, it does get you into that game for $1,000 less. Now, whether that moves the needle for a lot of people, that one is harder for me to gauge. Now, $3,500 is still fairly expensive. We were just looking at what was, roughly a $3,500 folding Vektron. So, that's probably, it comes from people that have a little more experience building everyday commuter bikes. Now also has a pretty impressive team that they've assembled. A lot of folks from Specialized on the bike side, plus other people that come from other tech companies on the tech side. But they're a new company, and it remains to be seen how well all of this is combined into something that has longevity that some of these other more experienced e-bike brands have. So you're definitely taking a risk here, right? Going with like a brand new company. It's, if you're buying a Rivian truck, like also, you're buying a truck from a company that's been making trucks for a couple of years versus for, a few decades. So there's some risk going in here, but I think that this $3,500 price is absolutely going to be more attractive to people that originally said, yeah, I don't know if I can justify $4,500 for an e-bike. But I don't think that it gets us into what is the main e-bike demographic in the US, which are the people who aren't replacing cars. They're people that are getting it as, an addition. And for those people, they're looking at $1,000, $1,500, maybe $2,000 e-bikes. But for most Americans, they're just not opening their wallet for a $3,500 e-bike, no matter how cool it is, no matter how much legitimate innovation is in it, which I think we can all agree that, ALSO's TMB has some of the biggest innovation we've seen in the e-bike industry for a long time. So I'm glad to see that it is more affordable, at least in this, entry level version of it. But I'm just not sure it's going to move the needle in terms of the kind of volume that I think the company is hoping for, or that I think will be important to making this a sustainable company that isn't reliant on um, continued support from Rivian or VCs, the way we've seen it take down other e-bike companies. Because I still feel like if they aren't going to be able to reach the volume that they need to support that crazy payroll they must have for all of those engineering positions and the very large team, then we're just sort of like running out the clock here. Like, they have to be sustainable selling these things. I don't see how they can sell enough of these.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, and I've been in the same boat since before this even launched. Like, we're kind of in the weeds on the electric bike market. We see these higher end bikes that for instance, we see Rad. They make these very compelling Rad Runner. That when you sell them for $999, they're everybody wants them. When you sell them at $12.99, people are like, I'll just get a Chinese bike. So like at 3,500, you have to really like, there has to be a big mover. And for me, like, there's a lot of stuff in this that makes it good. But if you go on the Reddit forums about also bikes, everybody's complaining about like, well, what happens if you run out of electricity and there's no direct drive? And just like, there's so, everything is proprietary. And yeah, I get that stuff. Like, we've seen, Mustache and Van Moof and, a bunch of other bike companies have serious issues with this. And like, what happens if the company goes under? Or, Rivian's like, yeah, that was a nice try, whatever. You're kind of left alone. So like, I get all the stuff here. Like I, I really want this company to succeed. Like I love what they've done. Like, you and I have talked about a lot of the features, like the pedal by wire. Just like, this is kind of like the bike. If we were going to design a bike, this is probably the closest bike that I've ever seen. But like, the problem is like the marketplace. Like, you can get an Electrek XP for $1,000, and is the experience 3.5 times better on this bike. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it very much fits that like 80-20 rule that like, if you can get 80% of the features for 20% of the price, like you got to really want this specific bike. And I'm sure there will be people that want it, right? Like
For
they're not
sure.
going to not
I
sell
mean, I
these.
want it. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. Like, a lot of stuff about it, I love. And the thing accelerates, like, I don't think they've kind of played that up a lot, but it accelerates. I'm not going to say like a Suron, but it's pretty fast, and it goes 0 to 20 like as fast as a car, and that's something they do kind of hang their hat on. But like, is that enough? I don't know.
Yeah, I worry we're going to be back here in 12 months with like a sad story to talk about. I mean, I think it'll take longer than that, but yeah, I just don't maybe their commercial side, like if they can sell, thousands of those quads to Amazon and
Right.
FedEx and whatnot, but like on the consumer side, unless they get this thing into Europe quickly, where people will pay this kind of money for a nicer bike, I want to
Yeah,
believe.
and also like the design is cool, but it's polarizing. Like, people either love it or hate it, and I think you're lopping off another segment of the population who want something a little bit more motorcycle-y. Like, they made this thing look like a Suron, and the middle schoolers could get this, and their parents could jump on board because it's only goes 20 miles per hour. That's something else. But like, my freshman in high school kid saw this and was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. That's cool. It looks like, a girl's bike, and I would never drive that. But, I love all the features of this thing." And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. Like, we got to work on some, aesthetics if we want to get, the kids involved, I guess. So I don't know. I'm with you on like having concerns about the marketability and the price point and all that. That said, I would love to have one of these bikes. I'm like squarely in the marketplace for one of these.
Yeah, and the thing that blows my mind is every time I cover this and like I read other coverage, I feel like I'm the only one saying this. Like I'm the only one pointing out that like the emperor's naked, folks, and
Yeah,
everyone else is just going on and on about how this, totally changes the industry. And I think it's incredible innovation. The engineers deserve a ton of credit, but I don't think this changes the industry, at least not at this price, unfortunately. And part of that is us to blame that, we as customers just don't want to spend the money that innovation costs.
right. Yeah, and hopefully, Rivian is out there. That they're quite expensive. Um, they're getting by. They're not obviously profitable yet. Maybe this is another play in that direction where they're making this first bike, expensive, and then they come in with a $1,500 model or a $2,000 model that maybe is more compelling. I don't know. But we'll keep an eye on this, and hopefully we'll have a review of one of these pretty quickly here.
Yeah. Here's hoping.
Yep. All right, let me crank up the old back button, which is taking a long time here.
Like it's got a pull start.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, guys. And the new story is new tilting flatbed e-trike is like a pedal-powered pickup truck.
This is a neat one. So this is an electric trike. It's a Delta style, so it's got two wheels in the back. It's built by Cube, but this is unlike almost any other e-trike out there in that it's got a very large flatbed platform in the back. Now, this is not Cube's original design. This was actually developed by BMW's design house. And pretty quickly, they partnered with Cube to actually bring this thing to production. Now, that was several years ago, like 3 years, 5 years, something like that. Like it was a while ago. So it's taken a while to get this thing through all of the engineering trials and bring it to production. But Cube has finally done it, and this is now available for purchase. It's pretty expensive. It's like $6,000 or $7,000, but it looks like an awesome utility kind of trike. It's a tilting trike, and what that means is that the front end of it allows you to actually bank into turns while the rear stays flat. So all of your cargo is like strapped down to that flatbed, but you don't feel like you're being flung off the side like you would on a typical, more simple framed Delta trike. So it's definitely going to help with that stability. It is Bosch powered. Cube is a European. Are they German? Maybe I'm not sure exactly where they're based, but they're European companies, so they have to stick to those 250 watt continuous whatever European rules. So we've got a Bosch system on here. It's got their more powerful performance motors. Obviously, it's not really a 250 watt system, but and anything that's going to be carrying like hundreds of kilos of cargo is of course going to be using those highest performance Bosch systems that really put out significantly more power. It's got one of Bosch's larger batteries. It's a 750 watt hour setup, which again, if you're going to be pulling huge power, or at least large by Bosch's standard, you're going to need the bigger battery. But I think really the take home message here is just how cool that the trike design itself is. We rarely see such sort of open-ended utility trikes. Lots of times we'll get one that has like, a basket or a rickshaw bench or something like that. But this one is really meant to be sort of a blank slate. And they released this cool image here showing like you could just build anything up to the back of it. You've got like a DJ stand, or like a rolling tool chest for a handyman, or like a coffee or a juice cart built onto the back of this thing. Like really, you could take this and turn it into anything. It's like the contractor's van of the trike world. But because it's tilting, it means that you can actually ride it like a bike. Like it's got the stability, it's got the comfort, that sort of thing. Pretty expensive, here's the price: $6,700. It's 5,800 euros, so roughly 6,800 US dollars. Very expensive. You're paying for a European built bike with very complicated linkage. You've got nice Bosch components, big battery. This is going to be expensive. It's almost certainly going to be limited to commercial use. But for companies that need something like this, I could see it fitting the bill. Even though, like, as a personal rider, I would like this just because I think it's so cool. But I think it's mostly going to be limited to commercial use. What do you think, Seth?
Yeah, I love the idea, especially of the tilt, the swivel in the back. That my biggest gripe about trikes is that you kind of have to ride them like you're on training wheels, which is
Yeah.
awful. So I would love to see this. Like we at the bike events in Europe, Eurobike, we get to ride around on a lot of bikes like this. But with the trikes, obviously it's a totally different experience. And if this is the new trike, but the other question is, like, if this is flexible to the left and right, does it kind of eliminate the benefit of a trike in that it's a solid, when you get on it, you have like basically a solid stance. You don't have to worry about balance too much. And if this is flexible there, I'm sure they have, like, this high-end bike, I'm sure they have this all figured out.
Yeah, I wonder if they've got some sort of damper where it sort of wants to return to a neutral position, but if you lean, it will allow you to lean in a turn. I don't
Or
know.
maybe if it's stopped, it's like locked, and then once you start pedaling, it unlocks or something.
Yeah, I've seen models that have actually like a mechanical lock to them where you can choose whether it's rigid or whether it pivots like that or tilts like that. I'm not sure whether this one does. I mean, the mechanical sort of locking is sort of a simpler, more primitive solution. So I'm guessing this one's going to be a little nicer, especially at this price. But we'll hopefully we get a chance to try one of these. Maybe this
Yeah,
Eurobike we'll see one.
yeah, I love the ideas that they came up with. You obviously have the tool guy. If you're watching the show, we got a DJ with his turntables on the back, and then you have a hot dog vendor with one. Um, Obviously, you could do ice cream or coffee or any of the fun things that people use carts for. So a lot of opportunity there. All right, we're gonna do the browser thing again. And next story: maker of Onewheel launches wild new electric mini bike that does self-balancing wheelies.
This is a pretty fun one. So the company behind the Onewheel, the company itself is actually called Future Motion. Their main product is the Onewheel, which is that sort of self-balancing skateboard-ish vehicle, though it's only got, like the name implies, a single big wheel. Looks kind of like a big lawn tractor wheel in the middle. They have launched a new brand around this new product, which is basically a reincarnated 1970s mini bike. Now it's built around the same tech that goes into a one wheel, and that allows it to have this cool feature, which is basically automatic wheelies. It's not the first time we've ever heard of automatic wheelies. In fact, Seth, you shared with me there's a company that uses One Wheel's sort of guts to do this as well. But this
Wheelie
one
fun
comes
bike.
from, yeah, Wheelie Fun Bike, which I love that name.
I love it too.
And so that was a new one to me, but it looks like now One Wheel is basically doing that in-house, or at least with a sister brand here, through Future Motion, to take that same tech and employ it this way. Now it's not cheap. It's over, I think, $2,000 if I'm not mistaken. So you got to really want the like old school 70s mini bike aesthetic. It's also, I don't believe it has pedals. So this is, a scooter class vehicle, or, kind of depends with your local regulations how this is classified, because it's not really an electric bicycle. It's a mini bike, and they don't beat around the bush there. They don't try to pass it off as an electric bicycle or anything like that. It very much is a mini bike or a scooter, depending how you classify this. But it is really innovative, because if you're going to have, a bunch of kids out there popping wheelies, this is going to make it a lot easier. And it uses the technology that we don't see in a lot of vehicles. One
By
wheel
the way, the kids
self-balancing.
are out there popping wheelies. Like that is a thing. It's happening everywhere. Like it's wild.
Yeah. So this makes it obviously a lot easier. In fact, I want to try this because I'm not great at wheelies, and I feel like this would, it's cheating in a way, but it gives you that fun sensation of that self-balancing wheelie without having to like feather it yourself. Now I noticed that they're pretty careful in terms of all their like wheelie shots, that they're not really on public streets. They're usually on like a parking lot or a beach or something like that. And so I think they're trying to like, you know, thread the needle here with how they're presenting this to be used, because it does have a bit of oh, here we go on the streets. All right. Well, so much for that.
It's maybe a street.
um
I don't know. Yeah,
yeah.
okay. They're on the street. On
That
the
doesn't look
beach.
like a there you go.
On the street. On the beach.
So there's some question as to, does this lead into what a lot of people worry about, this like sort of e-bike hooliganism? And obviously, at that point it's like you're talking about riders, not the product. The product here I think is very cool. It's innovative. The tech that goes into a one wheel is pretty impressive, and so this employs that same technology in a different way. But kind of like with also the people who would really want this, I'm afraid aren't going to be able to afford it, because it's just, it's not cheap. It's something that you got to want this very specific style of mini bike and the very specific feature of automatic wheelies to want to go with this.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see a bunch of like middle school kids on this in the in the YouTube video, but this is what middle schoolers are doing these days. Like, and good for them. That's fun stuff. It's way better than scrolling, doom scrolling on a phone. But and like right now, those kids are buying Surons, which go 50 miles per hour. This is obviously going to be a little safer than that, especially if it has some wheelie control and they're not on their backs. Like some of the Suron videos we've seen.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so that's good. There's actually a controller. Like my son obviously is in the Suron scene. There's a controller you can get for Surons and Talarias that does the automatic wheelie. So it actually has like a accelerate. It knows when you're at 45 degrees, or you could tell it 50 degrees or 40 degrees, and it'll accelerate based on what degree angle the bike is at, which is bananas cool tech. And I imagine it's not expensive, so we'll probably see more controllers or more bikes with this kind of feature coming up. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously wheelies are cool, but like maybe there's a efficiency component, like one wheel versus two wheels. That's a lot less rolling resistance. I don't know if you're any more efficient, like in the air. If you're like this, probably not.
I'm doing this for the planet, people.
Yes, yes. Wheelies for the planet. That's the new website. Um,
Oh my god.
but it's obviously quite cool. Like, the kids are doing the dances while they're doing on, the wheelies. I don't know if you've seen that, the Saronster stuff.
Like the knee
Um,
hopping
the knee
and
hopping, right? And
I
there,
feel
there's
so
music.
old. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. But at the same time, you love to see it. Like, it's a whole culture, like, revolving
Yeah.
around, and they're not using gas. They're getting around and they're doing stuff that's not on their phones. So, like, good for them. And of course, a couple of them are gonna walk funny after a wreck, for the rest of their lives. Hopefully, that's the worst, scenario. But this is the price you pay for having fun, and this looks like a ton of fun. And of course, me, 52 years old, am I doing wheelies to work? Probably not, but like, sign me up. Like, send me one. I would love to, like I don't do wheelies myself, but like, if this thing can keep me in, at a certain angle, then I'll give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the first thing that I thought when I saw this is like, when can I sit on one? Because
Right,
they just,
exactly.
it brings that smile to your face the way like everyone's first e-bike did.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a new thing, and this is I can definitely tell you that this is what the kids are doing these days. So, we have not seen the end of wheelie technology. I think it's going to be a big deal. And you know what else is interesting is, like, all right, so you got the wheelie things. We're going to go to the next article in a second, but those Chinese unicycle bikes. You
Like
know what I'm talking
the
about?
electric unicycles, or they're actually
Yeah, but
bikes?
they're actually like a bike on one wheel. It's like, I don't know if you've seen them. You probably seen.
Like a
I'm sure
penny
you've seen them.
farthing?
No, it's like a motorcycle, but one
Okay.
wheel. You're like,
Oh, yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So it's basically the guts of a electric unicycle, but with like a body of a motorcycle on it.
yeah. So if you're used to riding around like in the wheelie position, like, it's not a big stretch to say, all right, well, what do I need that front wheel for anyway? Like, I'm just riding around on my back wheel anyway, right? So maybe this is like the training wheels for the one wheeled revolution that's coming our way.
For,
What do you
for the
think?
folks who treat their front wheel as landing gear.
Right? Yeah, just a landing gear. That's yeah, just like for parking.
It's for slow speed maneuvers.
Yeah, it's like a kick. It's like a kickstand.
Oh man, that's
All
good.
right,
I
we
like
got
that.
to move on. We got to move on. And this is also kind of a far out uh, area where I think things are pretty cool. Like, I also want one of these. This electric motorcycle folds down to the size of a carry-on suitcase.
Yeah. Now I should point out this is not one of the like suitcase scooters that you can ride through an airport, even though it kind of looks like one. This is meant to be sort of a fully fledged electric motorcycle, or perhaps electric scooter, because it's more of a scooter class in terms of urban speeds. But it is designed to fold up into literally something the size of like a trolley sized carry on suitcase. It's not the first time we've seen something of this form factor from Japan. Famously, the Honda Motocompo was a folding gasoline powered motorcycle, but it was meant to be this very convenient, easily foldable, packageable in the back of a small Honda family car's trunk type of micromobility device. Now, that was what, 40, almost 50 years ago, something like that. And so this is very much a modern reincarnation, though I think it's even closer to that original Honda Motocompo design than the more recent Honda Moto Compacto, which was sort of a toy scooter. Um, Now, this one is not from Honda, even though it looks like that one. This is an independent, sort of like a Japanese designer's version, but it is actually coming to production. It's designed to be a real electric scooter, motorbike, whatever you want to call it, that you can buy. Again, urban specs here, so don't expect to be going, 50 miles an hour. This is likely going to be um, either a like 25 mile per hour, 40 kilometer per hour, or maybe we get up to that 28 miles per hour, 45 kilometer per hour speed limit. It's got, I believe, a 2,000 watt motor, so it could go up some small hills, but this is not going to be sending you up any steep San Francisco hills, that sort of thing. But the kicker here is really just how convenient it is for someone who wants a more motorcycle styled, or at least scooter styled vehicle that can fit in a tiny space. For me, like, I ride an electric scooter every day as my daily driver. I have a GoGo, but I also live on the fifth floor of an apartment building, so it stays downstairs locked to a light post, and I hope it doesn't get stolen each day. With this, I can literally take my motorcycle or my scooter in an elevator up to my apartment and park it in my living room. They even make these things with these exchangeable side panels that have a whole bunch of different artistic designs. I think they partnered with some artists to create like just a ton of really interesting, really eye-catching designs. So you can literally change the appearance of this thing from day to day if you wanted. And if you are parking it in your living room, it can almost be like a conversation piece, or like vehicular art that sits in the corner of your living room. So it's a really neat concept, and I'm glad that it's not just a concept, but it's actually coming to production, at least in Japan. And at that point, it's like, how quick can we get them out of Japan and send them around to interested e-bike reviewers all over the world, like us. So we'll keep you informed on that if we ever get a chance to try one of these. But I am excited for just how innovative it is, even if it like sort of builds on the idea of that like 40-year-old Honda Motocompo in a modern format. We just haven't seen something like that in a while. And so I love the fact that it's like this tiny, yet opens up into something that's an actual usable everyday urban scooter.
So I saw on your socials you have that, like, you were at that the Italian show, and you got this very small, even way smaller than this thing, bike, and obviously you were going, like 5 miles per hour or something. But like, I would love to see something like that, like something you could, like this, obviously, it has wheels that aren't going to get destroyed by a pothole. But I also would love to see like something that you could literally put on your backpack, or that you could genuinely carry around an airport. Like, like you could carry this around an airport for sure, but it's not a suitcase. Like, it's got some big wheels, and uh, like that, the handlebars are definitely sticking out. But yeah, the future of this form factor like is so intriguing, because if you could just have a bike on your back, or in an airport, that would just kind of change the game for me.
Yeah, well, that's where I find this one so interesting, because the difference between those vehicles is sort of the difference between a road going, like, small motor vehicle, like an actual motorcycle that's just shrunken down, and more of like a, mall vehicle. Like that one that I was trying, that I put the Instagram video up
Hmm.
from EICMA, that was Yachty's. I think it's called the Echo, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
To double check on that. But yeah, I mean that one, like, it was neat, but like I feel like I would ride that around a trade show, or like, a big mall.
Right.
You know,
Inside an airport, not like what you get out of the
Ex-
airport. You can't ride it to the city.
exactly. Like, yeah, this one, I mean, you couldn't fly with it because it's got like a 2 kilowatt hour battery or something. But you could, ride this on city streets. Now there's small wheels. It looks like, I don't know, a 10-inch wheel there. So you don't want to hit any big potholes. But this is designed to be a motor vehicle, as opposed to like a toy that's, can be ridden if you don't want to risk like breaking a wheel on a pothole.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, that bike we looked at before, the wheelie bike. I wonder, you have those small tires, but they're wide. Like, could that fold down into something? I mean, if it had, because it's just a frame, really. Like, the battery is very flat. Like, I don't know. There is some form factor where you could kind of, kind of look like a suitcase, and you could kind of take it on a flight with you. And obviously, battery size matters here. But you could just, like, instead of getting a taxi from the airport, you could just right into the city. Um, but we're not there yet, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, put like a folding chair on a one wheel, and you pretty
There you
much
go.
got your folding
Yeah,
one wheel bike.
that's it right there. The lawn chair and a one wheel. That's how you get from the airport to the city center. All right, let's head into the comments here. Michael Sprinzelis, Tern makes some awesome stuff, but to satisfy my inner cheapskate, when I think belt drive, I look to priority. That is a good point. Priority does make some inexpensive belt drive bikes, probably the least expensive that I can think of. Oh, the Luna Eclipse is pretty cheap, but that's kind of a folding bike. Oh,
Yeah.
kind of
I
like
mean,
this one
there
actually.
are some cheaper
No gears.
Gates belt drive bikes out there, but priority is really like the Venn diagram between like quality and price to me at least.
Yeah,
The downside is they don't make any folders, right? So those are all big bikes. It's not like the Vektron where you get the compactness along with the mid drive and the Gates belt drive. The priority,
yeah,
they're all larger, commuter style bikes. Well, they do have a beach cruiser, but still big wheels. That one even has
yeah,
like 3-inch tires, I think.
yeah,
But yeah, I have a couple priorities. I love them. My first priority got stolen, and then the company very generously heard about it and replaced it, which was very nice of them. But that's my daily driver. My priority current plus is like, man, I love that thing, and that is great value. Yeah, when it comes to getting those nicer parts, the belt drive, the internally geared hubs, etc., on a good quality bike.
yep. All right, Tern is sold out of 2 of those Vectron models. Not sure if that's a good or bad sign. A week before Black Friday. That's not great. Although you never know. Like maybe the story sold them out. I don't know. Or maybe they're just being haters and they're like, "Hey, don't buy that bike you were thinking about buying. We got a bike coming that you're gonna want more." It's hard to say,
Yeah, well, we'll see when those restock.
right? On the battery topic, have you guys covered the New York City plan for public charging stations and battery swapping? What you know about
Um,
battery swapping in New York City?
yeah, so we covered earlier the sort of the plans to do it. I think in the last few days they've um, been honing in on a more defined plan for I think like a couple dozen battery cabinets. It's very much geared towards the delivery riders. It's not like like a GoGro setup where it's for everyone with an e-bike kind of thing. And obviously you need the delivery bikes that fit these batteries. But New York City's done a good job of trying to create this like sort of universal bike standard that they've given these bikes to delivery riders with UL batteries and a way to make the whole delivery electric bike landscape safer around not only safer UL listed batteries, but also providing this battery swap or battery charging cabinet so that this is being done outdoors, not in someone's apartment building with a whole bunch of families sleeping on the floors above them. So it is a really cool initiative. It's a little bit small scale for now. I mean, it's not. I mean, territory wise, I think it covers like all of Manhattan and a few of the other or parts of a few of the other boroughs. I think Bronx, a little bit of Queens, something like that. So it does cover a pretty large area, but it's only a dozen or 2 dozen battery swap cabinets across a very wide area so far. So until until they can prove the efficacy of it, and then that can allow the funding to put in a higher density of these stations, I don't think we'll see the biggest impact in safety, but it's the beginning stages. So I think it could be a cool program.
Yeah, sounds good. New York City, obviously, big biking town. As far as U.S. cities go, at 3,500, the Also is a cool bike, but cool also means a lot of tech to go wrong. Yes, and like I think a lot of people are very wary of this, especially from a company that is new on the scene. It's connected to Rivian. Rivian's future isn't 100% secure, although it does seem like they're going to make it. They have some Amazon money behind them. Amazon is a big purchaser of the cargo bike, so there is some solid. They should be around for a little bit at least. But like when the tech goes wrong, proprietary, you got to go back to them to figure it out, and I'm sure they will fix your bike. But like, where are they going to be at? Are they going to be at the Rivian dealer? Or are they going to be? So it is a hard sale especially for people who are used to like cheap bikes and used to a
Yeah.
different kind of model, I guess.
Or something that they can, fix in the garage with a chain tool.
Right. Or take to a bike shop and they're just like, oh, you take the also
the
bike
TMB to a
to
bike shop.
yeah, they're just gonna be like, what the what?
What is that? A pencil box on wheels?
Yeah, I don't get it. Carl in San Diego, seeing the tube trike's innovative design, I'm thinking that's the kind of change that Rivian should have brought. To be honest, many pickup or any drivers haven't ridden a bike since they were 15 years old. Something, yeah. And then also aesthetics are horrible in my opinion. I'm not a fan, especially the white and purple choice. What is this, 1999? Yeah, I don't know. Like it's a design. Like some people love it, some people hate it. They could have gone for something that would have fit in and maybe people wouldn't recognize. I think they made a purposeful decision to be unique. Um, yeah, for better or worse. What do you think
Yeah,
about
I
that design?
mean, personally, I'm not a huge fan of the aesthetics. I do like that it's different. Like, I'm glad they didn't go sort of bland, middle of the road.
Yeah,
Like if you look at a Rivian truck and you look at a, Ford Lightning, you can tell that Rivian went, a little more out there, a little more futuristic, that sort of thing. But they didn't go off the deep end, right? Like it still looks like a truck. This is a little more deep endy, but and it's not my cup of tea. But I respect that they like built something different. So I'm a little bit split there. Again, like it's the engineer in me versus
yeah,
like the businessman
that's
in me versus the bike rider.
right. No, that's all valid, and I'm feeling that exact same way. Like, and I go back and forth. I'm like, this will never work, but like this needed to happen, and this is the future of e-bikes. Like I
Yeah.
genuinely believe like that, like this bike, the also bike will be like a tent pole in the like evolution of e-bikes. Like this is definitely a big
Yeah.
deal, a big
I feel
deal.
like this is the epitome of this is the e-bike we deserve, but not the e-bike we need right now.
Right. It's like the Lisa computer, like not any commercial success, but it's a big deal.
Yeah.
All right. For me, the range anxiety of direct drive is as big a problem as the price, if not bigger. Well, I would say direct drive. I think he means indirect drive there, but direct drive means you don't have range anxiety because you can just pedal. But
Maybe you meant electric drive and it like auto corrected.
yeah, but yeah, like if you run out of electricity, your bike doesn't work anymore. Although I think also has a way to generate enough electricity to keep the bike happening. But we're gonna dive deeper into this thing because it's this was designed by Specialized and a bunch of bike nerds. So I don't think it's as dumb a design as some people are not giving it credit for. We're moving on to the Cube, a trike that rides like a bike. That is awesome. How does the tilt trike work? Mechanical linkage to steering angle or smart motorized sync to gyros and tilt sensors? I don't know if we know too much about that yet.
Yeah, I'm not
What-
clear on the exact tilt mechanism that they're using there.
We're going to have to get back to you on that. That trike has CV joints in the back, clever, but maybe heavy. I don't think this trike is aimed at the mobility impaired, more utility vehicle / car replacement. That's true. That's a good point. Cube trike looked like it could be a ton more accessible to non-bike riding parents to take kids to school. Premium looking kid box. Most parents don't really already ride, can't easily be convinced to try. Maybe because I was a kid in the 70s, that Onewheel looks cool.
It
No,
does follow that design.
it's
Yeah.
cool. Like for anybody, like my kid thinks it's cool. I think it's cool, and everybody in between. But it looks like it's as easy to ride as a rickshaw bike. Well, can the
It
wheelie
does look
feature
easy.
be turned off? Yeah, I'm sure you can not wheelie it.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a permanent wheelie. Like you push the throttle and it just wheelies.
That would be fun though, as well.
Yeah, it'd be a different kind of ride.
Looks like there's a nice cargo bed on that Onewheel mini bike, and it's way down low. Nice utility. Yeah, that big space in between there is always ripe for stuff. The Cube trike is 75 kilograms, 165 pounds. That's quite heavy, obviously, but at least you don't have to lift it. Just don't try to climb hills with a spent battery. That's always the concern.
Yeah.
That That's in the family hybrid model with the kids box. Seeing some overweight e-bikes. How much does the also weigh? I think the also is like 70 pounds. Am I forgetting?
So I looked it up recently. It's 60. The number that they like to tout is 67 pounds, but that's with the top frame and the battery removed. So like if you were putting it in the back of a truck, you could take those pieces off and you'd be lifting 67 pounds.
Right.
With all the pieces back on, depending on which top frame you use, it's somewhere between like 85 to 88 pounds. And also, if you get the smaller battery, it's a little bit less. So on the one hand, you can make it lighter for lifting into a truck. Like if you're me and you live in an apartment, you have to carry it up several flights of stairs. Like you don't just want to like leave your battery and the top frame down on the street and like you bring it upstairs, you come back a minute later for the rest of the bike. So it's a bit heavy and not necessarily lightenable for every situation like they advertise, for lifting into a vehicle.
All right. Micah, you should do a video about priority, bland but great bike being your daily driver with a ton. I think you've done like 5 at least priority videos with access to a ton of bikes. The one that you choose is a story in itself.
Yeah, I've reviewed several priority bikes, but yeah, I've never made a video just on like what do I ride. And actually, like I call it my daily driver. It is like the first one I go for, but I have sort of several, maybe not daily drivers, but like it's the one I go for when I want a nice ride, but definitely not when I'm going to be like locking it outside for all day kind of thing. So it would be at some point interesting, like which bikes do I use for different scenarios? Because like my Rad mission, which is like 5 years old, that's the one that like if I know I'm going somewhere either like slightly sketchy or like I'm gonna lock it for a long time, it's like that's my cheapest bike, and I don't want to lose it, but I'm not gonna cry as much as if my priority gets stolen again.
Yeah. My bikes are DIY, so battery swapping wouldn't work for me. I'm still glad to see some progress in e-bike infrastructure. Yeah, like I hate to say it, but the battery swapping might be a good thing for the also bike as well. I mean, they make the batteries so easy to get in and out, but they also make them USB-C so that, but maybe there's a fast charging application as well.
Yeah, but then the cabinets have to be designed to accept them, which is actually easier for that style of cabinet because you just have a different cable. It's not like the GoGro ones where it physically only fits a GoGro battery. So there is a
Yeah, and
potential
there is
for
a faster DC output on those batteries, obviously, that powers the bike. So they could probably use that as an input as well.
yeah.
The also is the BMW i3 of the e-bike world. Okay.
I don't know enough about the BMW i3 to make
It's
that call.
like a little weird, boxy, weird mobile.
Oh, is that like the one of the earlier ones, right?
And it had like the suicide doors that, like, if you have kids, that you had to like walk outside of the car and open both doors so that your kids could get out of the back seat.
Oh, wow.
It was like, it's whatever. The witch bike video would be great. And that's it. Oh, wait, hold on. We got one more. Yeah, the witch bike video would be great.
Yeah. All right. So that's on the list. As if I don't have a long enough list as it is.
Right.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of the Wheelie podcast. We'll be back in another 2 weeks for another episode. We'll see you next time.